All right, guys, in this video, we are going to talk about ventilation mods that you can do to your SeaDoo to increase airflow. It's no secret that these things are pretty sealed up tight, basically just to prevent water from intruding if the ski's upside down. So with that being said, of course, there's not going to be many penetrations for airflow to enter the ski. And you can kind of see that obviously when the deck is on and when you have your seat on, there's not really many places, no air inlets that you can see. The only air inlets that are on the ski are in the front under the front hood scoop. So let me just put this on the ground and I'll show you. And these are the inlets. So these two inlet tubes kind of pass through the ski and they kind of just crisscross. That's going to be where the air is coming into the ski for the engine. And in fact, the ski is so well sealed that there's actually a video, I'll post it, from Riva where they show revving the ski on the hose and you can see the body actually being sucked in because the engine is just really kind of pulling for air and there's no air in the ski to use. So the body is just kind of like, it's almost like an accordion, like it's just really struggling for air. So if you want to maximize performance, it's very common to install some kind of additional airflow. And that's what I'm going to do here today. I've done it on all my previous skis. I haven't done anything on this ski in particular yet. And that's what I'm going to do here today. So up until this point, the only thing I've done for airflow is remove the rear ski cap just to get, this isn't a very big hole, but I'd say it's about 1.5 inches, 2 inches, just to give some kind of additional airflow to the air intake, which is right there, of course. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to install some Frogzskin vents on the ski, and I'm going to put them in the same spots where I've done before on my last RXTX, which really kind of helped out. And I'll actually post some data logs to show just how much it helps out. It really helps increase the maximum RPM because you're introducing more airflow to the engine, but you're also kind of decreasing the intake air temperatures a little bit because you're cycling the interior air, the bilge air. So before we do any installation, I'm going to walk you through different things that you can do and what I'm going to do to get these guys installed. All right, so I'm just going to start at the back of the ski and move forward, showing you the different spots that you can install additional ventilation. One of the most common spots is to tap a hole through the engine access cover. It makes the most sense. It's just above the air intake, and it makes it easy if you ever want to go back to stock or if you want to sell your ski. You really just have to replace the engine access cover if you wanted to. So what most people will do is drill holes in this section here because this will sit under the rear seat, so you won't really see it. But the only thing you'll have to do is kind of raise the studs here, so you'll have to loosen them from the back and install some washers on here just so the rear seat will sit above the base and allow that additional airflow in. The obvious thing to do as well is to just remove the cap that comes on here for the ski pylon, because that's, again, it's not much. It's like 1.5 inches, 2 inches, but you are getting additional airflow that way. The next spot is to install vents on the side of the body here or right under the front seat here. Obviously, the one that will go here is going to get you additional or better airflow because the seat is going to cover this section here. But the downside is now you have an opening in your hole at the bottom here. It's easy if you can kick it. You can, there's a few more cons to installing a vent here than there are in other spots. Moving forward, and this is actually where I'm going to install mine, and I'll show you what I do to do that, is to install a vent just under these body panels here. It doesn't really matter where you put them. But the idea is that when you're riding the ski at speed, you're going to have air that's coming into the hull this way, and it'll kind of be guided into those vents either here or under there. I'm not sure 100% where I'm going to install mine. I got 4 vents, by the way. I might put 4 or 2 here, 2 on the other side, or 1 here, 1 under here, and then do the same on the other side. On my last ski, I did 1 here and 1 here as well, and that really helped, so I may just do the same here. But the idea is you're not really trying to direct air into the air intake. You just want to give the hull more opportunities to ventilate. There obviously is benefits if you were to force air into the air intake. I'm not going to do that because I do a mixed course of river riding, but I also ride in the ocean too when I wave jump. So I don't want to have too many openings that water can get into, but obviously if there's more concealed locations for air to come in, that would be ideal. So that's what I'm going to do here today. And the first thing I'm going to do is go ahead and remove these side panels here because I need to get into that space. So for me, I have a wire under here that goes in for the charger. It's not a big deal. I left a lot of length in there so I can easily put this aside. But the first thing we're going to do is remove this plastic retainer clip and this screw here, and then this panel will slide right off, and then I'll show you what we need to do next. So let's go ahead and do that now. Okay, and with that trim piece off, you can see all the space that we have. So realistically, this is the vent that I'm going to use. This is like I think it's a 2-inch diameter, but I'll link this in the description. So there is plenty of room to install two here. I may end up doing this. I'm not 100% sure. Like I said, I'm going to take this assembly off and just see what I can do with this up front. It's been a while since I did it on my last ski, so I'm kind of just playing around with ideas here. But next step, we're going to get this speaker off. The trick here is there is a T30 screw that's up there. You can kind of see it. So you want to remove that, and then there's an opening under the speaker here. There's a little hole. It's a round hole. You want to take a flathead screwdriver, just like this, and shove it straight up, and that's going to push on a release tab that's holding the speaker in. And after you do that, you'll just be able to pull the speaker down, and then it'll come out, essentially. So I'll show you what that mechanism looks like just after I take the speaker out. All right, this is a little tricky to film, but we're just going to go ahead and get the screwdriver lined in, shove it all the way forward until you can kind of feel it depressing something, and then you're quite literally just going to, let's see if we can do this, pull the speaker out just like that. So the speaker is now loose, and you can see what that retaining holster looks like there. So now that the speaker is loose, we don't have to disconnect it or anything. We're really just kind of getting it out of the way, and the reason is because we have a nut there that we need to remove. So let's go ahead and take that out now. I do want to put an emphasis on this bolt here because there is quite a few videos on YouTube that don't talk about this bolt, and they say that as long as you have this rear tab out, you can kind of just pull this backwards and it'll come right out. And that is definitely not the case. You will break that screw if you try. That's the only screw that's holding it in, and then this whole housing will just kind of pull back just like that. Okay, now that that's off, you can see the real estate that we have to work here. So I may end up putting another vent up here instead of doing two in the back, just like I said, because there is plenty of space here for one. And I think I might do it in the same exact spot I did before, which is really just a vent here, and then there's going to be another vent that goes in the back here. I definitely could have went with a larger one, but this will work for now. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and I'll show you what I do to drill these holes. All right, so what I did here was just lay down some painter's tape. This will help prevent any kind of splintering of the finish. It's an acrylic top layer. So just a couple layers of painter's tape there. And to find the center, I just put a marker there. I just basically to put the template, which is just going to be our vent, found where the edges are, which is right across the top there, right across the bottom. So I put this in the center and just mark the center of that hole, which is that guy there. So in order for the best way to cut here is to basically take the hole saw, which, by the way, I'll put a link to the size holes that I'm using and the hole saw on Amazon. You're just going to kind of line it up with the center of the hole here. And the way that I found works best is to do forward momentum first, just to get that pilot hole started. And then once the pilot is through and the teeth of the actual hole saw are starting to come down, you want to put the drill in reverse just to kind of score the outer layer. That way it's not a very aggressive bite on the acrylic, which can tear it up. You want to do reverse threads to get it started, and then once it's through just a bit, then you can start to do the forward to actually bite through. So I'm going to try to record this. I don't know how much it's going to work because I'm going to use a small shop vac as well to control the dust, but we'll see what we can do here. All right, so I didn't even have to spin the direction of the drill bit because it was such a brand new bit. It had a great bite, so it was a clean shot pretty much all the way through. So to clean this up, I'm just going to use a little bit of water. I'm not going to use acetone or rubbing alcohol because that can actually damage the acrylic finish. So we don't have to clean the whole surface if we don't want, but we definitely need to clean around it just so the sticker or the sticky part of the Frogzskin vent will stick to it. So we'll just get this cleaned up just like that. Okay, and that's pretty much all there is to it. So now we can take our Frogzskin. The outer layer is the sticky layer, the inside is the mesh where the air will pass through. So I can never get these things. I'm just gonna remove it from the back here. Okay, and just like that, we're going to line this up on the hole. Try to get it perfectly centered, just like that. And then we'll just press it in all the way around. Definitely want to make sure this is good on here so it won't pop off. And this is protected, of course. It's going to be behind that plastic cover, so nothing can accidentally puncture this or anything like that. And this has a pretty much smooth shot down the ski, so the air will get sucked in, it'll pass through, and then it gets directly, it's routed back into the engine there. So like I said, this is not a ram air setup or anything like that. All we're doing here is giving the engine additional points to pull in air from. So it's not just going to be pulling from these vents anymore, which of course is being covered by that anyway, so it's very restrictive. This is just additional spots where the engine can pull in some fresh air. So this part is good to go. I'm going to go ahead and do the spot back here now. And when we're picking a spot back here, we really just want to be mindful of where the drop-in storage bin sits, because if we pick a spot too far up here, you'll see just how close to the storage bin it is. This is the top of the bin, so there's not going to be much room there for air to get sucked in. The more ideal spot is somewhere around here, because the bin really just kind of curves in there, and then we have this pocket where there's going to be plenty of space for airflow. So let's get this mocked up, and we'll start drilling in here as well. All right, the process here is obviously going to be the same as the front. So I marked it out with tape, picked the center where I want it with the marker. So let's go ahead and drill this out now. All right, this hole came out nice and clean as well. I'll go ahead and remove the tape here. We'll see what that looks like. And you can actually just barely see the back of the storage bin. That's the storage bin there. So we have, 3-4 inches to work with. I'm going to go ahead and get this cleaned up, and then we'll put the Frogzskin on here as well. All right, so there's the finished product. Again, these are only 2-inch holes. You could very easily go with 3, 4, 5, 6, or some people even do multiple holes, or they do have a square one as well. I think this works great for me, so that's pretty much it for this side. I'm going to do the other side, but I'm not going to record that because it's the exact same process. But once I'm finished that, I'm going to show you how to put everything back together here, and then we'll talk about some finishing stuff. So I'm going to go ahead and do that now. All right, so I just finished the right side. We're going to go ahead and start putting things back together here. So we're really just going in the opposite direction of what we did to take everything apart. So the first thing we're going to do is go ahead and put the front trim back on. And you really just need to make sure that those tabs are lining up with the studs that are on the body of the ski. So we'll go ahead and line those up just like that. And this could be a little tricky. I'm going to try to do this one-handed, but you want to make sure there's a little slot there that lines up as well, and then just go ahead and push it forward. So of course I just missed. We'll go ahead and try it again. Same thing, just kind of line it up, push forward, and that's it. So it's in, and we just have to put in that bolt there to secure it. So I'm going to go ahead and do that now. All right, that bolt is in, so we're going to go ahead and slide the speaker in. You basically just want to get the bottom lined up. You can kind of feel when it starts to grab. Yeah, there it is. And then once it's in, you just push it up, it'll lock in place. That's it. Then you just have to go ahead and thread that bolt in that we took out earlier. So I'm going to go ahead and do that now. On an unrelated note, if you ever notice that your speakers are rattling, there's a very good chance it's that bolt right there that needs to be tightened. If you tighten it and you're still getting some speaker rattle, I've noticed that you can loosen this bolt, take the speaker out, and anywhere the speaker kind of slides into the locking housing, you can put some of that velvety paper stuff that they use on car audio systems in spot, just to kind of keep the plastic on plastic rattling from happening, and then just remount the speaker. That'll usually get rid of the rattle. But 99% of the time, if you tighten that bolt down there, that'll get rid of it. So that was just, you know, completely separate. But last piece is to just get this last panel lined up, and you can see that there's tabs they kind of have to drop in. They're all across the top, so it's kind of hard to do this one-handed, but we'll see what I can do. So we'll get that lined up there. Let's see, and that's in. So we just have to put the snap connector and then the T30. Let's go ahead and do that now. All right, and that's pretty much it for this install. I just put everything back together. You can see from the front here that you can just barely see the edge of the vent. So when you're going full speed or whatever, you're getting a decent amount of airflow that's just going to kind of find its way into those vents. Certainly much better than having the only two vents, which are under here, completely blocked off. Let me just put this down on the ground. These vents here, which it's under the front cowling, so you're getting very limited airflow. So we got the additional airflow on the front vent here, the front vent there. We have the additional vent that's sitting under here, which is also getting air directed from the front that kind of makes its way through into that. And then we have the rear access opening, which, by the way, you can also use a Dremel to expand this opening, which I may end up doing as well. I did that on my previous RXTX. But those are the airflow mods that I've done, and I've noticed, you know, it certainly helps out. I've done some data logging. I'll actually post the results in the video so you can see just how effective it is. But if, like I said in the beginning of the video, if you prefer not to cut into your hull, it's perfectly fine to drill into your engine access cover. You really just need to make sure that you are being cognizant of where you are drilling underneath here, because there is some mounting studs and things like that. I chose not to do it on mine, mainly because I tend to ride with passengers a lot, and I've actually had one of these crack before, even before doing any kind of cutting. So if I'm taking a passenger out, we're going wave jumping or something, I certainly don't want to have a compromised engine cover, because this is where the passenger seat is sitting on. So that's the only reason I've never made any adjustments to this. But if you're not riding with passengers frequently and you're not wave jumping, it's probably going to be perfectly fine for you. That being said, the Frogzskins, I threw out the wrapping, but the Frogzskins vents work fantastic because they allow a decent amount of airflow in, but they have a very fine mesh that repels water. So obviously, if the ski is completely submerged in water, it's permeable, water will pass through it, but if you're getting sprays of water and things like that, it's not going to pass through, so you don't have to worry about your ski taking on any water. Now, people may question, well, if the ski needs this much air, why wouldn't they just design that from the factory? And it's pretty self-explanatory. It's a personal watercraft. It's in the water. There's only so many things you can do to allow airflow in the machine. They have to make it user-friendly. They have to anticipate that people are going to be submerging their craft. They have to anticipate that people are going to be flipping their craft. So there's only so much that they can do. And that's where the aftermarket kind of really solves that problem. Certainly, you do not need to do any kind of airflow modifications. You are not going to sacrifice major speed by not doing anything. But if you're trying to get an additional mile per hour or two, or just squeeze a little bit more RPM, this is what you want to do. Certainly helped me. Certainly helps others. There's a lot of debate on where you should be putting your airflow additions into the hull or whatever. But really, the principle is quite similar, quite basic. The engine wants air. If you introduce areas into the hull for the engine to pull air, it makes the engine happy. That's really all it comes down to. It's not too complicated. The points in the front here, I'm certainly not expecting super cold air to make its way all the way back into the air filter. Like I said at the beginning of the video, it's just to get additional air into the hull without doing too much compromising. Cutting into the fiberglass in the front here and under here, you're not doing any structural integrity compromising or anything like that. Cutting back here, I noticed a lot of people do that. I've never seen any hull cracks from doing it here either, so you know, if you're not going to have any problems here, you're certainly not going to have any problems in the front. So that's just my take on it. If anybody has any places that they like to introduce fresh air, certainly leave a comment. I'm open to suggestions. Always looking to squeeze a little bit more performance out, see how they do with data logging. Or if you guys have any questions at all, feel free to message and I'll be happy to get back to you as soon as I can.